Hello, I'm Mike and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're looking at issue 30 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine today. This issue came with 10 more Hobgrot Slittaz for the Forces of Destruction, and you'll see them in today's game where we're learning all about objectives and objective markers. So looking through the issue first up we have some background on the Slaves to Darkness. These are the mortal followers of the Chaos Gods, usually driven by violence and lust for power, and their sorcerers wield demonic magic gifted to them by the Dark Gods. And so often the life of a Slave to Darkness is very short and very violent, although those who survive end up becoming battle-hardened warriors, the most powerful of which will often be clad in this engraved suit of armour, as you can see there. And the ultimate goal of every champion of these mortals is to be uplifted to a demonhood and become a demon prince of one of the four major deities. Although the sort of gifts can come at a price, as you can see in the bottom left there, those who receive a few too many gifts or displease the gods in some way may be turned into a mindless chaos spawn. Now you have more background on the magic of the realms, this time going over forbidden magic. So obviously the Collegiate Arcane is the legitimate source of magical education within the mortal realms, although some of the more slovenly magical aspirants will go to the Chaos Gods. And so you have the 8 schools of magic, or the 8 based on the 8 mortal realms are the legitimate, acceptable schools of magic. However, unfortunately, some of the more uncivilized factions, like the Oryx, have access to their own magic, and then the Chaos Worshippers will use demonic magic, which can only end horribly for them. We have a short story here about some of Dwarden defending a city of Sigmar against a Tzeentchian chaos cult. And we actually have one each of the 3 Dwarden factions, the Dispossessed, the Fire Slayers, and the Caradrons. And you can see in the short story about how each group perceives honour, especially when death is on the line. So you can pause if you want to read them. And then a battle rattle for our second unit of Hobgrot Slittaz is much like the first. They are built a little bit differently, so again you can roll for their backgrounds and how their boss acts on the battlefield. And then their more background traits give them a name and some great deeds they can do. Then the build guide's very similar to the previous set of Hobgrots, although we are building certain models differently, so you have a different boss there, a different banner bearer and a different noisemaker and a few other different poses. So you all have spare parts left over, but they're just pushed together models and they go together pretty well. So there you go. And then the painting guide, again, is very similar, just bringing them up to the same level as the other ones, although I chose to paint mine a little bit differently to the first set, just so they stood out a bit more. There you can see them up to this point. So I hand you over to Will, because in today's game we're learning about objectives and how to use objective markers.
So continuing our look at the core rules from where we left off last time, we learn about garrisons, which follows on from the section on terrain. A unit can garrison a defensible terrain feature, as we learnt previously. Up to 60 models can garrison a very large terrain feature, 30 can garrison a large, and 15 can garrison other ones. Models with a wounds characteristic of 10 or more cannot garrison them, and when a unit garrisons a terrain feature, it's removed from the battlefield and considered to be within the terrain feature, or it can be set up there at the start of the game if the terrain feature is wholly within somewhere where the units can be set up. When a unit is garrisoning a terrain feature, you measure line of sight and ranges and everything to the terrain feature and not to any models. Attacking the garrisoning unit is at -1 to hit, and they get +1 to their save rolls. A unit can join a garrison if all of the models are within 6 inches of the terrain feature in the movement phase, instead of making a normal move, and they're just removed from the table. Or it can leave a garrison by being placed wholly within 6 inches of the terrain feature and not within 3 inches of any enemy units. And it also mentions that sometimes terrain features can be demolished. If a defensible terrain feature is demolished, then it cannot be garrisoned anymore, and if the unit is garrisoning it, then you roll a dice for everyone in the garrison, and on a 1 the unit is slain, and then they're set up as normal as if they were leaving it. And then we have a section on objectives, which are markers on the battlefield that are usually of strategic importance and relate to the victory conditions of whatever mission or battle plan is being played. So as it says, the battle plan will explain how objectives are placed, and you always measure to and from the centre of an objective marker. So it doesn't really matter exactly how big it is. Objective markers are controlled by having units within 6 inches of them, and you check for control on an objective marker after the setup but before the first battle round begins, and then again at the end of every turn after the battle drop phase. You see who's controlling it by adding up how many models are contesting it, and a model must be within 6 inches of the objective marker to contest it, or if it's within 6 of 2 objectives you have to pick which one counting as contesting. Monster units count as 5 models for the purposes of contesting, or otherwise if units with a wounds characteristic of 5 or more count as 2 models. And it's also worth pointing out that an objective remains under a side's control if they move away from it, until such time as the opponent takes control of it. So you can take control of an objective and then move away in a later turn and still retain it. And it also mentions that sometimes the battle plan will call for a terrain feature to be contested, in which case rather than measuring to the centre of an objective marker, you measure to any point on that terrain feature for the purposes of contesting it. So that is a lot of information, but it'll become quite obvious once we use it in today's game, and there are some objective markers on the back page that we'll show you in a second that you can cut out and use or photocopy, which conveniently have the central point marked on them to make it easy to measure. And there's an example of contesting and controlling an objective here, and these Vindictors, even though they moved away, the order side still retains control of the objective. And there's also a table of everything in the collection that counts as more than one model, so all the heroes on the left which have 5 or more wounds all count as 2 models, as do the 3 units in the big models section in the middle, and then we get 4 monster units with the collection that will count as 5 each. As also a reminder about keeping a tally of victory points throughout the game. So then we're on to our game, where the Destruction Forces have ambushed a caravan taking supplies to an Order settlement, and the Stormcast Eternals are trying to defend it. So for the Alliance of Order, we've got the Lord Imperator, the Knight Arcanum, 5 Vindictors, the Stormstrike Chariot, 6 Gryph-hounds and 4 Praetors. And for the Alliance of Destruction, we have Zarbag and his Gits, the Killer Boss with Stabgrot, 2 units of 10 Hobgrot Slittaz, including the new unit we got with this issue, because we already know their War Scroll, 3 Bolt Boys and 10 Gut Rippers. For our battlefield, we have the usual 2 battle maps with 4 pieces of the primal layer scenery set out as shown on the map, and then 3 objectives across the centre line between the 2 territories which are on the long edges, 1 objective right in the centre and then the others halfway across to each of the short edges respectively. Deploying as usual and placing the objective markers. Victory goes to the site with the most victory points at the end of the 5th battle round, and victory points are scored as follows: 1 victory point for controlling at least 1 objective at the end of each player's turn, another victory point if you control 2 or more objectives, and a 3rd victory point if you control more objectives than your opponent does. And our special rule for this game is valuable loot, so once per battle round you can choose a friendly unit within 6 inches of an objective that you control, and the unit can use a command ability without having to spend a command point. And finally on the back page here are 6 objective markers with the icons for all of the 6 factions we get with the collection that you can either cut out or photocopy if you wish. So we've set up the battlefield. You can see we've already deployed. We've got the primal layer in its places and 3 objectives across the middle. And we've used here 3 objective markers from the 40k Imperium magazine collection, which are the same size as the ones in the magazine, but they have the advantage of being numbered, which means that we can put on the overlay who is controlling every objective at any given point in time, so that you can have a bit more information on your screens about that. So here's my deployment. We've got the Gryph-hounds on the far left, the Praetors in the middle, who'll be bodyguarding the Knight Arcanum in this game. Lord Imperator and the Knight Arcanum are in the middle, Lord Imperator is the general, and we've got the Vindictors and the Chariot on the right flank. Across the other side is the Destruction Forces.
So from left to right, as you see it, I've got the first unit of Hobgrots with the Bolt Boys behind them. Gut Rippers in the middle, next to the other unit of Hobgrots, the new ones. You can tell they're the new ones because they've got red ropes rather than bone ones, and more like the Killer Bosses behind them, and he'll be my general. And then I've got Zarbag's Gits with Zarbag tucked in just behind. Might be able to see him through the vents there, on my left or your right. Also for my dirty trick, I'm going to choose Noisy Racket.
So we're just to roll off for priority in the first battle round. I have won the roll-off, and I will go first because that way I can score objectives in my first turn. So on to Stormcast, turn 1. We both successfully used heroic leadership, and now I'm going to try and cast Blaze of the Heavens with the Knight Arcanum, needing a 7, getting a 6. And here you can see my movement, fairly conservative, just moving a few models within 6 inches of objectives 1 and 2, so I can take control at the end of the turn. Only on my right flank have we gone forwards a long way. The Chariot moved up its full distance, and the Vindictors ran, so they will stay within range of objective 3, even if the Chariot manages to charge. But before it does that, it will shoot. Shoot at Zarbag's Gits, I suppose. So 2 shots on 3s, 1 hit. And 4 to wound because of Noisy Racket. That's 4.
Yeah, so that'll be a wound to one of Zarbag's Gits.
Lord Imperator will be in range of the same target actually, so...
I am going to issue all-out defense now with Zarbag.
And D6 shots, just 1, which missed.
So the start of the charge phase, I'm going to release Snurk Sourtongue, so if the Chariot wants to charge Zarbag's Gits, he's going to be brought in as well.
But I will still declare the charge with the Chariot, needing probably about an 8. 5 is not enough, so I use the Lord Imperator's free command point, command ability to reroll with Ward to Victory. No, a 4. Not going anywhere. So there won't be anything else to do in my turn, but I can take control of all 3 objectives and gain 3 victory points at the end of my turn, because I hold 1, I hold 2, and I hold more than the opponent as we head into destruction turn 1. Generated a command point with heroic leadership. I used heroic willpower, which is handy because Zarbag also gets to cast an extra spell.
So we're going to start with Arcane Bolt, hitting 5, getting it with a 9.
I've got 2 unbinds, so I'll try. Oh, a 9. No,
so it's going to be
more.
Yeah, it's still using the magazine version, so it's just D3 mortal wounds to the chariot. 1.
Down to 11.
And then we'll try Jealous Hex. I think the Lord Inheritance probably in range. Eating a 6, getting it with a 7.
And I'll try and unbind that with himself. Heroic willpower. No, so he has Jealous Hex.
So in my movement phase, there's been a general movement in the middle. My front rank of infantry is all ran. I spent a command point for this unit of Hobgrots on the left, so they auto got a 6 to get them all in range of the Griffhounds. The other unit also ran normally, can get most of them in range of a Stormcast model, and the Gut Rippers moved up in the middle, and so did the Killboss. Bolt Boys didn't move. And then Zarbag's Gits are going to go after the chariot, which redeployed after the unit of Hobgrots moved up in the middle.
Yeah, but I only rolled a 2, so it just moved to the side, but it does discourage the Hobgrots from throwing grenades at it because there's only a couple of them in range now.
Shooting phase, we're going to start off with the Bolt Boys. They're going to shoot at the Lord Inheritant. We won't use all-out attack, so 4 attacks on 3s. 6s do mortal wounds. Well, should have used all-out attack, shouldn't I? No. It's just 2 mortal wounds. Next I'll do this unit of Hobgrots on the left. They're going to throw their grenades at the Griffhounds. 10 shots on 4s, 8 hits, wounding on 3s. 4 wounds. It's going to kill 2 of them now. And the other unit of Hobgrots in the middle. We've got 8 who are in range of the Praetors. One guy at the back is in range of nothing, and another guy in the back rank is going to throw a grenade at the Vindictors.
And I will issue all-out defence with the Praetors from themselves.
On the Praetors, 8 shots on 4s, 5 hits, wounding on 3s, 3 wounds.
With 3 pluses, it's all out defence. Oh, failed one.
And you've got a guy shooting at the Vindictors who hit and wounded.
4 plus. Saved.
And then I've got the 3 bowmen in Zarbag's Gits, they're going to shoot the chariot. 4s, nothing. And the charge phase are going to declare a charge with Zarbag's Gits first. 4 is enough. So they get in, stop Snout getting unleash held, and Snout's going to charge. He's definitely in with a 9.
So all of Zarbag's Gits get in like so.
So Snout goes first, because he strikes first.
And I will issue all-out defence with the Lord Imperator.
Yep, to the chariot. D6 attacks, 6 on 4s. That's only 1 hit, really should have used all-out attack again. Wounds on a 3, he doesn't. And then the rest of Zarbag's Gits. So Drizgit has 2 attacks with his prog, with his Squig Brand that hits once and doesn't wound. Progdonetta, 3 attacks on 3s, getting 2, and 4s, getting nothing. 6 attacks with Slittaz because I've got all the bowmen on 4s, getting 3, and 4s, getting 2.
No rend, and all out defence means those are saved.
6 attacks from the Squigs on 3s, 4s, so it's still 3 hits. Wounding on 3s, getting nothing.
And the chariot hitting back, I'll put the 3 axe attacks on Snurk Sautung and the Griff charges on Zarbag's Gits. So the axe only hits once, and wounds on a 4 because it's still back around 1. No, so Snurk Sautung is still alive. And the Griff charges, they hit 4 times, and wound on 4s as well. 3 wounds with no save, minus 2. We both spent command points on Inspiring Presence to keep the Griffhounds and Zarbag's Gits alive respectively, and then Destruction to take control of objectives 1 and 2, gaining the full 3 victory points for still holding more than the Stormcast and 2 objectives. Objective 3 is still held by the Stormcast, but that doesn't matter for the victory points. So then we will just be rolling off for battle round 2. Oh, I've won, so I will go first. On to Stormcast turn 2. Killboss failed to get heroic leadership. The Lord Imperator is going to try heroic recovery, so his bravery is less than 6, so he regains...
It is more than 6.
Sorry, it's more than... yeah, so he regains 1 wound. And I'll try and rally the Griffhounds, because each 6 is 4 attacks more. No success. And then the Knight Arcanum will try and cast Laser of the Heavens again. With a 7. Oh, gets it with an 8 this time.
Zarbag can try and unbind. He does with a 9.
And here's my movement. The Griffhounds have gone round the flank of the Hobgrots over here, staying away from the Gut Rippers mainly. Praetors and the Knight Arcanum have moved towards the space between objectives 1 and 2, though when the Praetors moved, the Hobgrots in the middle redeployed back to surround the killer boss. And on the other side, the Lord Imperator and the Vindictors moved forward towards objective 2, getting out of the way of the chariot so it could retreat to get round the back. So hopefully it can charge later in the game and do some damage with its charge. The chariot can't shoot, but the Lord Imperator can, and it will shoot at Snurk's hour time, because it's just scary. D6 shots, 6.
He's found the on button.
On 3s, oh dear, only 2 hits. And 3s, 2 wounds though, so
He's dead.
he's a nice one. And there's going to be a whole lot of charging. We're going to start with the Griffhounds. They are in to the Hobgrots.
So I am going to use Unleash Hell with those Hobgrots. So 10 shots with a grenade, hitting on 5s.
There's a 6, I think.
These older Hobgrots apparently don't want to be shown up by the new boys, so 6 hits, hit wounding on 3s. And there's 4 more wounds.
Oh, that kills 2 more Griffhounds. Praetors next. They were all 3, so we're going to have to spend a command point. We can use the Lord Imperator's free one for this into a 4, which might just be enough. Well, they're just over 4.5 inches away, so that is a failure, unfortunately. So, well, the Knight Arcanum's not going in by itself, so we'll move on to the remaining 2 units. Sending in the Vindictors, yes, they're going to get into Skullbag's Gits. They're going to go into Zarbag's Gits, and I think the Lord Imperator's actually going to stay where he is, because I was hoping that his flank would be protected by the Praetors. Sending in by himself is probably not going to go well. So no more charges. I will do these Griffhounds first, otherwise they'll probably get stabbed to death. And I will issue all-out attack on them with their own alpha.
And I will issue all-out defence with the unit leader as well.
So 9 attacks hitting on 2s. Ooh, good thing I issued all-out defence, because all-out attack because they all hit. And wounding on 4s. Wounding on 4.
5 plus saves thanks to all-out defence. We made one. A Hobgrot made an armour save. So Zarbag will issue all-out attack to Zarbag's Gits. So, Drizzagit, 2 attacks on 2s with his Squid Brand, getting 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, 2 wounds, -1.
4s, they both.
That's the important one. 3 attacks with Frog Janetta, they all hit as well. 4s, 2 wounds.
3s, take a wound.
And 2 attacks with Slittaz, because I've got 1 archer left, he gets a hit and a wound.
And saved.
6 attacks from Squigs on 3s. 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 3, -1.
4s, oh, failed 2, so that is a dead Vindictor and a half. Leaving me with 9 attacks back that hit on 4s because of the net. We forgot that in the previous turn, but I don't think it made any difference, really. But 6s do a mortal wound instead. Well, they got a mortal wound, but a 3 will miss. And then 3s to wound, getting 2 more, so actually only 3 damage.
Oh, we lose 1.
The Griffhounds, so on to the Battleshock phase. The Griffhounds have to make a Battleshock test. They lost 2 this turn. And the remainder run away, I think.
Yeah, Bravery 6.
Bravery 6.
So I'm going to use the once per battle round free command point for my unit of Hobgrots on my right flank, so they don't have to make a battle test. Zarbaz gets to do though, and they've lost 3 members. 1 or 2 is good. They're there, they're all in it.
Unfortunately, I don't manage to take objectives 1 or 2 because there's still far too many destruction models over there. 3 remains under my control because even though we have the same number of models contesting it, I did control it before. Destruction actually have to take it from me to steal it. So I gain 1 victory point, going up to 4, as we head into Destruction turn 2.
Zarbag can only do 1 spell this turn, so we're going to go for Arcane Bolt, I think. Get it with an 11.
Well, I can try and unbind it on a 12. No.
I'll do D3 mortal wounds to the Vindictors. 3.
Ooh. No, we both tried heroic leadership, but only the killer boss succeeded.
Yeah, and in my movement phase, Bolt Boys staying where they are. Zarmag's Gits going to stay where they are as well. Those Hobgrots on the flank moved around, so they were in range of the Praetors, but then I moved the Gut Rippers up and then the Praetors redeployed. And then the other unit of Hobgrots moved. Praetors a bit too far away now, so they're probably going to end up throwing their grenades at the Lord Imperator instead. And they made space for the killer boss to get in. Zarbag ran so that he doesn't get steamrolled by the chariot, hopefully. He gets just behind the Hobgrots. And then it's the shooting phase. So I will start with the Bolt Boys. They're going to put shots into... You'll go for the Lord Imperator again.
I think he's too far away to look out, sir, now, from the Praetors.
Okay.
The Vindictors.
So 4 shots on 2s. Getting 3 hits this time, no mortal wounds. 3s to wound. 1.
with a 6 to save, we'll save.
And we've got 2 guys with grenades still in range of the Praetors. And on 4s. 2 hits, 3s, 1 wound.
Oh, failed. Someone down to 1.
And then 10 more grenades going in at the Lord Imperator on 4s. So 5 hits from the new boys. Wounding on 3s, getting 3.
4s, take a wound, down to 5.
So start the charge phase, I'm going to use Scare Shields on the Praetors. Getting, well, to 6, but I add 2 because I've still got 10, which is 8, which is enough to affect them, because they are bravery 8.
Yeah.
So they might want to hit the Gut Rippers, and then the Gut Rippers will try and charge. A 6, that's probably enough. Gut Rippers basically just go straight ahead, make sure the back ranks range, and then the Killer Boss will try and charge. Ooh, well, yeah, 10 is definitely enough. Picking the Gut Rippers to go first, they're all going to pile in. I can get all but one of them in range of the Praetors, and the one who's out of range will have to attack the Night Cannon. And I will issue all-out attack to them as well.
And I'll issue all-out defense with Praetor Prime.
So 19 attacks from the Gut Rippers, hitting on 3s, 6s do mortal wounds instead. We've got 2 mortal wounds and 11 regular hits that wound on 4s. Getting 5 more.
Needing 3s to save, thanks to all-out defense. Only failing 1 save, but with the 2 mortal wounds, that will kill a Praetor and put another one down to 1 wound.
Then 2 attacks on the Night Cannon as well on 3s, getting a hit. It didn't wound, never mind.
I'll do the 2 Vindictors, and the Lord Imperator will issue all-out attack to them with his free command ability. So 5 attacks on 3s. The all-out attack made no difference, but we do get a mortal wound on Zarbag's Gits. And another wound, so 2 damage.
You killed a squig. So I'm going to do Killer Boss Morlek attacking the Night Cannon. So he has 4 attacks with his Boss Hacker on 3s, 6s do mortal wounds instead. 1 wound. Wounds on 3, it does. Might as well rend.
4 plus, she takes 2 damage. I'm going to choose not to pass those wounds off to the Praetors because it will keep the wounded one alive.
Stab Grot, Chariot Killer on 4s, getting a hit. That wounded.
3 plus, maybe. I do the Praetors on the Gut Rippers. They're hitting on 4s because of the Scare Shields. So 7 hits ring on 3s. 4.
4 6 plus saves. Oh, if only I put all-out defense on them. But they couldn't receive an extra command since 4 dead. Zarbad's Gits, so Drizgit, 2 attacks on 3s, getting 1. Wounds on 3, wounds, plus 1.
Failed.
2 damage.
That kills the Banner Bearer.
And then the Barbed Net, 3s, gets 1, and 4s, getting 1.
Failed that as well.
And then Fangfill Gob from, I think that's Bonecracker, the only surviving squig, on 4s, missed.
I'll keep Banner alive because we've lost enough this turn already with the extra bravery. Finally, the Knight Arcanum is going to attack the Gut Rippers as well. On 3s, they all hit, winning on 4s. Only 1.
6 plus save again. No.
D3, it kills 1.5.
So I'm going to use Inspiring Presence in the Battleshock phase on the Gut Rippers, and then Zarbag's Gits have to take a Battleshock test because they lost 1. But they're still okay.
And the Vindictor Banner Bearer lost the remaining 3 friends, so a high number is bad. No, he's still sticking around. But I think I'll concede the game there because Destruction Forces are gaining another 3 victory points for holding, well, all 3 of the objectives now actually, to take control of Objective 3. And yes, I've got the Chariot left, which could come in and flatten a whole unit for Hobgrots, but I just don't have the models left to take the objectives. Whatever I do for the remaining sort of 3 battle rounds or so, I'm just going to be chasing more models around, I think. So I'm not going to be able to get the lead on victory points. I only have 7 models left for myself.
Yeah, you're probably going to take some casualties. And if I go first, I think that will seal the deal.
Yeah. So we will call that game a Destruction victory and recap it for you now. Well, that was game for issue 30 of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. How did you think that went?
Yeah, better than I thought it was, although looking at the battle plan again, I probably should be a bit less surprised considering that I actually had 3 really big units that once I got onto 2 objectives would take you a long time to get rid of. You were very unlucky to re-roll 2 very easy charges and fail both.
Yeah, unfortunately that was probably what decided the game. I mean, the Praetors may not have killed all the Gut Rippers, but in order to counter your advantage in numbers, I had to have the initiative and charge your stuff and do damage and kill models, and I just completely failed to do that.
Yeah, and your 2 remaining Griffhounds ran away. That was pretty an unlucky roll as well.
Yeah, I think you did well to deal with the Griffhounds actually. You shot 2 of them, and then Unleash Hell killed another 2, which just basically meant they were kind of useless. The whole unit charging in has a lot of attacks. They're quite good against Hobgrots, but managed to deal with them fairly effectively.
But just the fact that I've got Inspiring Presence available to me, and with the Killer Boss supporting the other 2 units, it actually would take... You would have to kill a lot of Hobgrots and Oryx to take control of the objectives once I was on them.
Yeah, and yes, I had the Chariot left at the end. We did actually roll out of interest off camera to see who would have won priority, and you would have won it. So then you would have just...
There would have been a lot of grenades being thrown.
Yeah.
And I would have whittled you down even more.
Yeah, I just was running out of models, really. Because you're sure the Chariot can kill a lot of Hobgrots if it charges them, but...
Yeah, at the end of the day, even though it is very beefy, it still only counts as 2 models.
Yeah. And failing to charge Zarbag's Gits as well. When it doesn't charge, it doesn't get all the mortal wounds and everything. So it's really a game where, even though I won the first 2 priority rolls, actually I just wasn't able to capitalise due to a combination of dice rolling and possibly some poor decisions. I think actually blocking off the Chariot with the Vindictors at the start so it couldn't redeploy backwards properly.
Yeah, but to be
things like that.
To be fair, it was very unlikely you would have failed that charge twice.
Yeah, it just goes to show that the dice can ruin or even the best prepared battle plans. So.
Yeah, and I do think this probably does showcase very well, actually, the sort of main weakness of the Stormcast. Certainly the collection, maybe the Stormcast in general, is that they low model count units. Makes it really hard to take objectives. Certainly take objectives away. You have to kill your way to them. You can't just walk onto it like I can and take control away from you.
And I did have the choice in the first turn, obviously, to move further forward, because what happened was you were able to move forward with more models and take them from me, and then, of course, I wasn't able to take them back despite winning priority, so that was a risk to only put a couple of models on. But the alternative, I think, would have been to jam everybody forwards onto objectives and then be charged, which I didn't really fancy either. It's always a delicate balancing act with Stormcast. Having said all that, if you'd gone first, you would have just run all those models onto the objectives, and then I would have had a hard time shifting them.
That's the thing. I only need to take... My plan was always to just take 2 of them by having loads of people on them.
I might have been able to whittle you down anyway, but you'd be built up such a big lead by that point that I had to kind of go for the early points. Objectives in general obviously are a very important part of the game. The main point of a battle plan, controlling some objectives, and then there might be some secondary objectives of some sort as well. In narrative games, it depends exactly on what the game is. So, for example, in the previous issue where we had the really quite bespoke scenario going through that gorge, then objectives were obviously not appropriate there, but I imagine we'll see quite a lot of objective play.
Yeah, I think that goes to this general theme for the next couple of issues as well.
Yeah.
It does make things a little more interesting than just having straight-up slugging matches.
And then, new Hobgrots, obviously. I like the fact that they have some different poses, there's different command group, so that they do look visually distinct from the other lot, and of course you painted them slightly differently as well, so it gives them a bit more interesting look on the battlefield. Yeah,
I do like it. Is quite a good kit considering it's mostly, I suppose, a sort of mono-posed kit that you tend to do nowadays. You do get a decent variety. I don't know, it must be about 15 unique ones when you get 10 to a kit. Again, pretty decent value for money. I think you get 10 to a box and they're probably about £20-ish, so it's worth getting. I like how the leader of this one has a peg leg rather than a hook for a hand.
I like how the musician has a horn in this one as well, just a different silhouette for that model.
Yeah, and there's some cool poses again. Yeah, I think I've been a bit sour on them in the past, but I think with Inspiring Presence to stop them running away and being able to all-out attack them, their ranged attack gets fairly dangerous. I rolled luckily with Unleash Hell. I probably wouldn't do so well with it most of the time. And Griffhounds are actually particularly weak against them because of their lack of armour. Ideally, I'd want another unit of Gut Rippers, and then I could have a front line of Gut Rippers with Hobgrots behind to throw grenades over. Otherwise, I guess the Hobgrots are good for screening things as well, because they're a very cheap unit to actually field.
Yeah, and the Crawl Boys range isn't that big, and Hobgrots are Hobgrots and Gut Rippers are the 2 sort of battle line infantry units. So if you wanted to build a full Crawl Boys army, you probably would want at least 2 units of Hobgrots. Depends what you're going for exactly, but they are a good, as we said previously, they're a good cheap objective holding unit, which you can now see why, now that we know the rules for objectives.
Yeah, and they do actually have some synergy with Swamp Boss Scumdreck, who is part of the collection. I think he's the very last thing we actually get, so we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, but anyway, I think that'll be all for this video and this episode, so let us know what you thought of the game, and your thoughts on Hobgrots, and also on objectives, if you have anything to say. Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. weaving the tabletop donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.